to change the software to meet our needs. We have given that up to companies. And make no mistake about it, the cloud does not fix this problem. If you think it's difficult to get Microsoft and Oracle to do what you want, imagine what it would be like to get Amazon. Or who do you talk to at Google to get them to help you fix your code or your problem? Today, there are 1.7 billion desktop computers. And if each one of these desktop computers wastes only 15 minutes of our time each day, fighting spam, fighting viruses, or trying to make them do what they're supposed to do, that means that we waste about 8.5 billion reais every day as a world economy because our computer systems do not do what we want them to do. 8.5 billion reais. That might be enough to fight a small war in Iraq. Or it could actually inoculate every child on the face of the earth against polio. It could feed refugees in various countries. I'm going to stop with this for a moment. We're going to talk about the goals of education. A lot of you are students. How many of you think that the university is there to get you a good job? You're wrong. The goals of education are not about to get you a good job. That's something you have to do on your own. The goals of education are to create a thinking, voting public. The goals of education are to create a thinking workforce. A workforce that can solve problems. A workforce that can move industry and your country ahead. The goals of a university are to create somebody who can learn for the rest of their life on their own. To sift through all of the data that comes in off of the internet and create information. Data, pieces of little information. Information, which is truth. Information, which is useful. This is the goal of the university. And the university also does research to forward the world, to make us move forward. If it wasn't for universities, we would go back to plowing the earth with sticks, because it takes technology to create steel, and steel to create plows. So the four functions of education are to set a path forward for the person who wants to learn. A path of objectives so that you know what you have to learn. This is not determined as a democracy. Teachers don't allow us to vote on it. And that's probably good, because most of us do not have the time to think about this. But teachers and educators need to listen to the rest of us to be able to formulate that path. They need to listen to the people in industry to be able to have their input to be able to formulate that path. And once those objectives have been created, then to teach those objectives to the willing student. And finally, to certify that the people have retained that knowledge and know how to use it. In the university, it's also to research new objectives of where we need to be in the future so that we can start to educate the children of today for the path of tomorrow. Now, with that as the path of knowledge, let's look at some tenets of knowledge. We start off in nursery school. As children, we know our family, but we have to learn how to deal with others outside of our family, people that are diverse from us. We need to know that there are set times when we need to do things. We need to know how to tie our shoes. We need to know how to pound pegs into the right hole. We go to elementary school, where we learn to read and write, do arithmetic, learn art forms, and experiment. We go to junior high, where we're introduced to the sciences, chemistry, biology, things like that. Things that explain the world around us. We go to senior high, and we have the higher sciences and philosophy. And some of us study something called shop, where we learn to fix automobiles, perhaps, or we learn about electricity, maybe carpentry, those types of things. Some people go on to university, and they find this gap between the high school and the university. And in the United States, that gap is created because in high school, if it does not come out of the teacher's mouth, it's not on the test. But in college, the professor tells you, I don't have the time to tell you everything. You have to learn it on your own. And this is the beginning of the lifetime of learning. This change, a lot of times, frustrates students, and many drop out in their first year. But it is necessary. Then you go on to your master's degree, which teaches you how to research a particular problem, how to find out what the problem is, how to define it, and how to solve it. And your PhD is the culmination of this. It is finding something that has never been realized before, investigating it, and coming up with a proof that it exists in a particular way. You're furthering the knowledge of humankind. Now here at this conference, there's been some talk, and a lot of talk, about losing our humanity to technology. Humanity is not something that should be taught in schools or university. Faith and God have to be taught in the home and the church. If we can't teach our students how to add 2 + 2, how can we teach them something as complex as religion? And which religion do we teach? This is a problem. But this point brings forth something to tell you. It's not just the teachers who are responsible for this. It's every single mother and father, every single uncle and aunt, every single relative is responsible for the education of their children. You can't just give it to the teachers, no matter how good they are. Now, we've been talking a lot about paths of teaching and stressing universities, but this is a vocational conference. And so there are paths that are additional to just university. I was a cooperative education student in my undergraduate university. It took me 5 years to do what would normally be a 4-year course. But for 1.5 of those years, I worked in private industry as an engineer. In fact, it was during that work that I switched from electrical engineering into this new thing called computer black magic. Because I liked these new computers. And I was first exposed to them not at the university, but in the company that I was working for. Cooperative education allows the student to see what the job is really like. They work alongside of other people in a mentor type of situation. And I believe that every university student should have a cooperative education. You go to school, you work. You go to school, you work again. It may take you another year to get through, but you're much more valuable when you come out. In England, for the last 600 years, they've had what they call a guild program. It is mostly used for carpenters, plumbers, what they call the tradespeople. You start off as an apprentice working for a master. But over time, you learn the industry, you learn the business, and eventually become a journeyman, going around throughout until you too become a master craftsman. In Britain, they have just started a program for systems administrators to be apprentices.